This is a Glass Box Media podcast.
What should we talk about this week? What is going on in the world? Besides politics and coronavirus?
Right? Very little. Very little. I have not had any time really to absorb anything that's happening. Mm-hmm. Just being out of town, I'm not watching stuff. I'm not paying attention to things very much. I'm so disconnected. I feel like I don't even know what's happening.
No, I think my favorite thing this week is the whole Biden's son computer thing. Mm-hmm. Their story of how this happened. Who amongst us hasn't gotten completely drunk and then decided to take our laptop to a legally blind guy to fix it, who then copies his hard drive and gives it to Rudy Giuliani. And I'm it's the most bananas story I've ever heard in my life.
See, when I tell you I am disconnected from what is going on, it's like you're speaking German to me right now. I don't even know what you're talking about. I have no idea.
I'm actually glad I don't, because I want to hear the story from you, because it sounds like you're doing better reporting than what I would have found out anyway.
Dude, I'm telling you, happening. I'm this is the best the Russians can do, because that is the most convoluted story I've ever heard for anything in my life. It's just, we're living in banana sandwich land now. It's crazy town every day, every fucking day.
Yes, it is, and it's only going to ramp up and get crazier. Sorry, guys, if you hear my dog barking, but it's only going to get crazier. Heading up to November, it's about to get super nuts, and then we were just having a conversation before we started recording about what it's going to be like over the holidays. What are people going to do? Because it's not advisable to get together, obviously.
Yeah.
In big groups, and people are already nah, we're over it. I was telling you guys that I'm in Springfield, Missouri right now. My family lives pretty close to downtown. So I went on a walk and I walked downtown, and this is a college town, first of all. So my parents live on fraternity sorority row. So we walked that street, and parties everywhere.
Wow.
And then we got downtown, and my brother and I have our masks on just to walk through downtown, and people are in the clubs, they're in bars.
Oh my God.
They're out in huge numbers because people just don't care anymore. So
they're over it.
There's no way we're going to be I don't know what the holiday season holds.
Oh, these guys are going to be us. Let's go home, visit our families. Grandma, here's some Corona for you.
Mm-hmm. Grandma, watch out, because I was in the club on Saturday. I'm at home on Sunday.
Oh my God. Speaking of coronavirus, though, I was on Facebook in our wedding shaming group, and someone was talking about their upcoming wedding, and someone posted this fucking meme. It's just coronavirus likes this.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep. I was I'm stealing this.
Yoink, that's mine now.
Mine's now.
Oh man. Yeah, I don't know. Even last night I was talking to a friend of mine out here, and I was like, "What are you doing tonight?" And he was like, "Oh, it's I'm not going to blast their actual names, but it's Jack and Jill's wedding reception at this bar. Why don't you come on down? We're heading over there right now." And I'm like, look, I love those people who got married, but I was like, I am not, you can't pay me to be inside a bar with a bunch of people I don't know right now.
Oh, absolutely not. No,
No.
it's different worlds, man. And depending on, I know that we all watched Social Dilemma. I think that it just really illuminated for me the fact that people are living in different realities now. Like, because they think that we're fucking nuts for caring.
Right.
For sure. Yeah. Like, I've definitely had to be that person who is wearing a mask, and then I'm like, how do I feel like the asshole right now? You know, like, how do I feel like the asshole whenever I'm like, I'm the one doing the thing that we're supposed to be doing, right?
Like, I'm being safe. That's still the thing, right? We are still in a pandemic, right? That's the thing I keep asking. Wait, this is still okay.
Yeah.
And then they're like, you know, this is the thing too. It's like the only place I get my news, and sometimes I skip it every other day or so.
BBC?
Because, yes, BBC World News. Like, honestly, because it does remind me, that this bubble of the United States that we live in, there's so much other things happening in other places, you know? And it's funny because, like, just, you know, America thinks that this is some kind of scam built specifically for Americans. And as soon as the election's over, we're all going to be fine. And I'm like, I hate to tell you, but we're not the only country in the whole fucking world here who's dealing with pandemics or going back on lockdowns.
Fake news.
I'm like,
fake news.
It just blows my mind. Like,
Right. I mean, and also just like that whole belief that after the election, it relates to more things than just Corona, but just in general, this belief that like after the election, we're going to be fine.
No,
it's gonna be all
Is
fine.
like, no.
dude, I was reading an article this morning with my coffee in Washington Post about QAnon tearing families apart. Like,
Yeah.
people are like, there's like a subreddit support group for people whose family members have been lost to QAnon. Legitimately, like, they're like, we no longer speak to our mother. It's like she joined a cult. Fucking bananas.
I mean, and
cult.
Yeah, and it's not going to end when the election is over, and it's not going to end with 2020. Like, hate to break it to everyone. I know that we are just like looking for that like benchmark. We see the finish line, right? And we're like, oh man, it's almost over. We're going to head into 2021. But it's not like this is going to go away in 2021. Like, there's still going to be stuff to contend with. And yes, I'm hoping for a better year next year. However, a lot of these problems that we're experiencing now are still going to be problems.
Yeah.
In January 2021.
There are like legitimate adults that believe that celebrities and Democrats are lizard people.
100%.
Lizard
100%.
fucking people that
I like the adrenochrome, or crone, though. Like, that to me, adrenochrome or whatever. That
What?
they're like, this is the thing where the celebrities and the Hollywood elite are taking the adrenochrome from like children and babies, and like, so that
People
they can
believe
live
it.
longer.
Oh, they believe it hard. And it is bizarre. I have gone down a rabbit hole of comments sections where I'm like, they're not joking. And it's so hard to determine what is satire and what isn't. Like, you're like, is this a troll? Like, is this somebody who
I feel like somebody made up the joke and people were like, yep, truth. And you'll learn the truth, you guys. That's the thing that everybody comes back with. Oh, you'll learn. You'll see. You'll learn the truth.
Yeah, you'll see. Yeah.
Okay.
Trump's
And
gonna take these
you're
people
going to
out.
feel real dumb.
Yeah. You're egg on your face, you guys. You
Oh,
big
God.
fuck.
Man, if we had any QAnon listeners, they are out now. Sorry about you.
That's fine.
yeah.
That's fine with me.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'll sleep well tonight with that fact.
Sleep well, bitch.
Yes. Oh, well, this is my worst date. I'm Christina.
I'm Keegan.
I'm Cassie.
That was the quickest we've ever done that, I think.
Yeah.
What? Wait, no, because for a minute there, we tried to do it at the start of the episode. But that was speedy. I'm impressed.
You guys, did any of you guys watch the Adam Sandler Hubie's Halloween?
No.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Is it
So-
actually funny?
Okay, here's the thing. Hot take, guys. And this is going to lead me into my suggestion for FMK. I don't love Adam Sandler. I don't think he's super funny, and he kind of gets on my nerves. There are a handful of things that I like from Adam Sandler.
Yeah, well, you've expressed this to me before, and I have to
know, it's a
admit
hot
that I
take.
was quite shocked because I know your
I'm a little surprised.
sense of humor, and you're all about
Right.
comedy, and I would have thought that, you know, when you were younger, that you would have loved, like, you know, Billy Madison or Happy Gilmore or Waterboy
Of
or
the
whatever.
three of us, I would think that Cassie would be the one who liked Adam Sandler.
Look, my sense of humor is a little bit more Will Ferrell. And even too, like there's some Ben Stiller things that I've liked comedy wise, but there's been some Ben Stiller things that I cannot watch that are like cringy and I don't like. Like Meet the Parents. I can't do Meet the Fockers, all that. I'm like, oh no, that makes me cringe worthy. Just to say too, that there are a couple Adam Sandler movies that I've enjoyed, but I cannot deal with any of his like, ooh, I'm a weird boy, blah, blah, like weird voice, like caricature, like
Yeah, that
caricatures.
stuff's not my favorite either.
fucking
But
is
I
annoying.
still don't dislike it, and I don't know if that's just a nostalgia thing of having grown up watching like Waterboy and all that stuff. I don't know, but I mean, it's not my favorite, but I still like Adam Sandler. Like I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just because I think like he seems like a nice person, like a fun
Sure.
person, and then it makes me like him, even though like yes, for me it's not necessarily my sense of humor. But
like
like
him when he does like when he's not doing like I don't know, it's like a very simpleton character. Like it feels like very like he's making almost like he's making fun of people is what it reminds me of. And I know that's not what he's doing. I know that he seems, and honestly he does seem like a genuinely all around really fucking nice guy.
Right.
There's something that feels very much like, oh, I'm making fun of you. The
Yeah.
caricature that he does that just really rubs me wrong.
well, it's a
But
very
I've loved-
90s kind of humor. Like I feel like it's dated. It's very dated now, you know, in
Yeah.
a way that like for instance, for me, and I am probably the odd person out because people love this movie, but I hate like Dumb and Dumber.
Oh, I
All of
hate
those
it.
Can't
Dumb and
stand
Dumber
it.
movies.
Can't stand
I
it.
fucking
hate
it.
them. Okay, good. I'm glad I'm not alone in this because I oftentimes feel like, is there
so
something wrong with
cringeworthy.
it's uncomfortable to me.
It's
And
so
Adam
uncomfortable.
Sandler, some of his stuff does something similar,
Yes.
and yeah, and that stuff is not my favorite. But I think it was very 90s. Like they did a
Yeah.
lot of stuff like that.
Yeah, if I had to choose
I love-
between like Adam Sandler and Jim Carrey, though, I would lean Adam Sandler.
Oh yeah, between him and Jim Carrey is the fucking worst. God.
Yeah.
Ugh. Cringiest.
Well, should we FMK like 90s comedians?
I was gonna FMK Adam Sandler characters, but
Yeah,
Either or.
dude, fucking. You've got Adam Sandler, you've got Jim Carrey, and who would be a third like 90th Jerry
do you think
Jerry
Will Ferrell's
Seinfeld?
too- Oh, God.
Oh God.
That would be
Oh,
impossible.
fuck.
Adam Sandler, Jim Carrey, Jerry Seinfeld.
Well, I think you gotta do
90s.
movie.
No, I know
think
what
you
I would do. I know what I
think
would
we
do.
got to do movie star.
Oh,
I don't
movie
know
star.
That Jerry Seinfeld is like in that same echelon.
What about Chris Farley?
Oh no, Jerry Ben Stiller.
Ben Stiller. Okay.
Yeah.
All
All
right.
right. Ben Stiller, Adam Sandler, and Jim Carrey.
Oh, I think I know. Yeah.
Okay, go first.
Okay. I am going to marry Ben Stiller. Of the comedy that I think I could handle in my life on a more normal, regular basis, it's definitely Ben Stiller.
Ben Stiller
Zoolander is one of my favorite
one
movies.
of the funniest
Comedies.
moments in Happy Gilmore when he's like, Mr. Gilmore, what a tremendous looking trophy. When he plays that character or whatever that at the retirement home, he's like, oh, your back hurt? Or your fingers hurt? Now your back's going to hurt because you just pulled landscaping duty.
I've never seen that movie because again the the character thing bothers me. But here's what I will say on Hubie Halloween. I didn't want to like it. I'll be honest. I went in and I was like, I'm not going to like this. This is going to be stupid. It's going to be that dumb character shit. But I actually didn't hate it. And they had a lot of like little like cameos. Like, so Ben Stiller was a cameo. Steve
Kevin
Buscemi,
James, is he in that?
Kevin James is in it. He's not a cameo. He's like actually in it. But there's like all these like little references to like past movies and things that he's done, which I thought was pretty brilliant. So marrying Ben Stiller.
Okay.
Again, he was a cameo in it, which was fucking brilliant. I am going to fuck Adam Sandler, and I'm going to kill Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I am going to do the exact same thing as you. I can see Ben Stiller having a really nice serious side because I'm not somebody for comedy. I do not like silly comedy. I don't like I'm not a huge fan of silliness, of shenanigans. It just doesn't make me laugh. And Ben Stiller is somebody that his stuff is stuff that I think is really funny out of the three of them. So I'm going to go with him. And then Adam Sandler, his part in Punch Drunk Love, dude, I love that movie. I love that movie so much. And he's so, I don't know. I just feel like
his serious stuff is so great.
So great.
It really is.
Yeah.
He's really great.
I have a feeling.
Except he's going to get on your nerves and Uncut Gems. Warning.
I haven't.
Not good?
No, but he is good in it, but the movie is anxiety provoking.
That's what Eric said
I really
too.
want to see it though.
But Adam Sandler makes me feel like he's one of those guys that you're like, oh, whatever. You roll your eyes, you don't, and then all of a sudden he's just like in fucking credible in bed. You're like, what?
Wait, what?
Exactly. He's like one of those like silly people that seems really surface, but then all of a sudden he just like blows your fucking mind in bed. That's how I feel he would be. He's just going to be like, know your body better than you know your body. And you're like, what?
Wow.
That's, I really feel like Adam Sandler is incredible
really
in bed.
Strong. Yeah. Okay.
So
I get that vibe as well. Yeah.
I feel that way about Jim Carrey. I couldn't put up with him.
Here's the thing. All right.
Oh, Lord.
Here we go.
Lord.
Buckle up.
Lord.
Okay. So I think I'm going to marry Adam Sandler because I have seen him interact with his kids and his wife. And I think he's a really good husband and like a really good dad.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's super silly all the time. But I think that he is silly like with his kids.
Oh, that's cute.
And stuff. And I'm like, and I like that. And I think that is, there's that sweetness to Adam Sandler that I think I like. And I don't think he's going to, pull like, I don't know, voices and stuff with you, his wife. So I think I'm
maybe not in bed, but I bet he does.
I don't know, man. Because again, like I've seen him do serious stuff, and he's actually a pretty good dramatic actor. So I know that he's got it in him to be serious, and he's capable of that. But I like a silly side. I like somebody who doesn't take stuff too seriously because I can have a tendency to take things too seriously, and so I need somebody to lighten stuff up for me and remind me that life isn't that serious. So I'm going to marry Adam Sandler. Now, here's where it gets tricky. Of Ben Stiller and Jim Carrey, I bet you Jim Carrey is better in bed. I just get a vibe that like he is better. And actually, I don't think that Jim Carrey is super silly in real life. Like if you see interviews with him, he's not serious. I mean, he's not silly. In fact, I think the opposite might be true, and that he might take himself too seriously, like that Andy Kaufman.
Oh God, yeah.
Really,
I saw like 2 minutes of that documentary, and I was like, I couldn't stand to be around him for longer than a minute.
And that is why I think, even though I do believe he is better in bed, I'm gonna go ahead and kill him.
Yeah,
and I will.
I couldn't stand it.
I will. You know, I will fuck Ben Stiller, but there is something about him. I don't know what it is, because I actually really do.
Man complex.
There is something weirdly, I get like almost an aggressive vibe.
Yes.
And I'm like, and I don't know where this is coming from, because like I think that
he's like his dodgeball character.
Yeah. But I love, like, of the three of them, it's his movies that I like. His comedy, I like his comedy, right?
Okay.
I mean, I actually don't think that Ben Stiller is like a bad looking guy or like anything like that. Like, so it's none of that. There is just a general vibe though about Ben Stiller that I'm like, is he gonna talk down to me at dinner? Like, there's something there where I'm like, you drink red wine and say just every now and again you're going to say something that has me going, pardon?
Excuse me? Yeah, I feel like he would be pretty dominant in the bedroom, actually.
Maybe.
You know what I mean?
Maybe.
He gives off that vibe that he likes to be in charge.
See, actually, I get that. Yeah, for sure. And he did go on to become like a director. Of the three of them, he is the one who went on to be a director. So I'm like, he is probably the one who's the most like, he's going to direct you. You know what I'm saying? So
the Pillow Princess
Adam
in me
has his own production company now. So
yeah, and he did Escape from Dannemora. He directed that. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to do that. And we'll just see how it goes. I don't know if our personalities will mesh, but I'm with you on that. Like, I don't know if I can be, I don't know, even though I think that the actual act will be good with Jim Carrey, I don't know if I can get to that point.
Yeah.
I don't think I can get to the act.
Yeah, because I'm like, oh my gosh, you're going to annoy me, aren't you?
Here's the one really redeeming quality that I want to just bring up about Adam Sandler, which is that you did speak about him, like, as far as like how he acts with his kids and how he acts with his family. I think that he has to be probably one of the most loyal, genuine people. I think that it shows in his films. He always works with the same people. He constantly brings people in who have done stuff with him in the past. Like I said, with this film, he did something that I thought was very, very sweet. And at the end of this film, he dedicated this movie to Cameron Boyce. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him.
Yeah.
I wasn't at all. I had no clue who Cameron Boyce was until I had recently watched Alex Winter's movie on Showtime. The one about the actor kids or whatever.
Showbiz Kids.
Showbiz Kids, thank you. And he was on there, and I'm like, what a fucking cool kid. Like, he's so just genuinely like had this really radiant energy. And then at the end, I was like, oh wait, he died.
Yeah, it's
he died
tragic.
Of, like, a seizure in the middle of the night. And so he had played his son in one of the movie, or in those two, the Grown Ups movies. Cameron Boyce had played one of his kids. And so I was just like, how fucking sweet to bring awareness to this guy who meant a lot to him, and to raise awareness for the monies that are being funded for, like, there's like a whole foundation and all this stuff. It just was really sweet,
right? I mean, and Adam Sandler has such a specific type of comedy that the fact that he's continuing to get opportunities to work in the way that he is, like he got that big deal with Netflix, means that he must be good to work with.
Right.
Yes.
Because I always think that, like, you can always tell when actors are like decent people if they continue to get like work and they continue to work with the same people. It means that there must be easy or good to work with, which is a good sign to me that he's probably genuinely a pretty nice person.
Yeah. Well, I feel pretty good about our decision.
Yeah.
Good decision. Sorry, Jim Carrey. Like, across the board.
No. Well, you guys want to take 5 and we'll come back with stories?
Sounds good. And we're back. All right, Cass, kick us off with some stories.
Okay. So we got this story sent in to us in our email. And it starts out, "Hey, lovely ladies. It's a little weird writing in for the simple fact that my husband turned me on to your podcast. And I know he's going to hear this unfortunate story if I'm lucky enough to make it on the show.
Aw.
But to my defense, this was a long time before we met. So here we go. It was the mid-2000s when pure romance was just starting to get big. I went to my first quote-unquote party where my sheltered self was totally embarrassed at the idea of sex toys and the pageantry of the host. Oh, girl, I can so relate to this because I also was very, I don't want to say sheltered, but I was definitely much more shy about having open conversations about sex at that time. And going to a pure romance party was just cringe.
I really feel like it has to be the right group of people.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, like I could do a party with like you and our
Yeah.
girlfriends, like, and that would actually be kind of fun.
Yeah.
But if it's like your great aunt inviting
Oh.
you to a pure romance party,
Oh
you're
my
like,
God.
I went to a pure romance party for Christina's bachelorette.
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yep. This was years ago. And for me, it was fun. It was a fun way to do like a fun little bachelorette thing. It was like the beginning of the night kind of scenario.
Mhm.
I was there though with like at the time people who I only had known through Chris because they worked with Chris. So I was like, you know how it is too, because you're just like you in your mind, everybody's paying attention to what you're doing. But in reality, nobody is even remembers that you were even there. So I noticed Christina's face when I said that, and she was like, "Wait, you were there?"
No, no.
I'm just kidding. But it's definitely a cringeworthy thing, and especially like you said, if it's not with people who you're just like super comfortable with all the time, it's a bunch of kind of semi strangers, acquaintances. It's just like, I'm good. I'm broke this month. Can't afford to buy anything that would make me look
because
away.
the thing is about like sex toy parties is like there has to be a certain amount of comfortability about talking about what you're into then.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no hiding that, like, because of the stuff that you would be interested in buying directly
Right.
correlates to what you're into.
Yep.
And if you're not open to talking about that with the people you're in the room with, then it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Right. Stranger danger. So my friend literally ended up with a lap full of dildos at the end of the show and tell, which gave us all a good chuckle. Thank goodness phones didn't have sophisticated cameras back then. That's so true. Or else we'd all be in trouble and unemployed.
No, that's
Anyway.
one of those situations where you leave your phone in a basket at the door.
Yep.
Like when we walk in, phone's at the door.
That's very smart. I like the way you think. Anyway, I left the party with one really boring dildo and a tube of orange creamsicle flavored edible lube. More on that momentarily. At the time, I had been dating a guy for a while and we'd done the typical bedroom stuff, but it was becoming clear to me that he was into some more kinkier things. No judgment on that front. I know people are entitled to their kink, but it's important to be on the same page with your partner in that department. I learned that maybe a little too late. So, full disclosure, I've never developed a taste for BJ's, pun intended. Sorry. I like puns. In the past, and especially with this significant other, they always ended up feeling like a sloppy chore, so I didn't dig giving them. Not only was this guy into them, but he also had a penchant for blowing his load in, shall we say, interesting places. For
Come again?
example,
No,
literally.
don't come
But
again.
Don't come again. I love a good pun. For example, dude was super into the idea of splooging on my face. Being the young, naive girl I was, I decided to oblige him this one time as a kindness. Okay. Here's what I'm going to say about that.
Okay.
I think that there are people who can be into that, but don't just do it as a quote unquote kindness. I think that there are times that there are going to be people who find that sexy or fun or, ooh, that's a little degrading and I'm kind of into that. But I think to do it out of kindness just feels, I think your partner can feel that that's not like, how do you hide the non-enjoyment of that? You know what I mean?
I don't know. I mean, I think
Does
that
it
there
feel
are
genuine?
compromises in relationships,
Sure.
like sometimes, and if it's something that like, oh, you get a lot of joy out of,
Yeah, it's like
pleasure out of, or whatever, I'll take one for the team for you because it's something that you enjoy. Like, I don't mind that concept so much, but only if you're really okay with it. Because if it's something that you're really like, I absolutely do not want to do this, and I'm only doing it because like I feel like I have to please you, then I'm not on board.
right. I completely agree with what you said.
Like butt stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
You know?
there are things that I'm like ambivalent towards that you can do as a kindness, but if it's something that you aren't okay with at all, I wouldn't, like you said, Cassie, I wouldn't do it as a kindness if you're not okay with it at all.
Look, I have been in a very kinky relationship before, briefly, with a very 50 Shades kind of guy, and there was something that like a splooge in the face or on your chest was kind of like fucking hot, because it also, there was like, I don't know, like I think there is some, in the right time, in the right place, it can be enjoyable.
Different
for some
relationships are different too.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, like
I can't imagine Chris asking me to do that, and I think that would be weird for him to do that. You're right, like different relationships and different things, and I agree. I think that you're right. If it's not a deal breaker, then, and it's just for funsies, then really, is it that big a deal? No, probably not. But I think that there is, if you're in a relationship with somebody that's serious and you feel a way about that, like, to me, splooging in the face is a very almost demeaning act with somebody that you have a serious, and maybe, I mean, unless if you're not both on the same page about it, is what I'm saying.
right,
So,
like anything. I feel like that's anything. Like if you guys are not on the same page about it, then it will feel not good to you.
right.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry. So anyway, so I whip out the creamsicle flavored stuff, so maybe it won't be so bad, and I'm mentally preparing myself to accept the face mask. I do the thing. He likes it. You know how these things go. So there I am, covered with this sugary, slimy goo. I think it even got in my eyelashes.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Go to the sink to wash myself off, and instead of the normal steady stream of liquid out of the faucet comes sputters of air. I am not amused.
The water has been turned off.
I go to the other bathroom and get the same thing. Immediately, I'm wondering if my water has been turned off or something for non-payment. Unfortunately, this was the thing that happened to me multiple times while living there. Post-college, adulting is hard, y'all.
No.
So fucking
No
true.
judgment.
So I wipe off with a dry towel as best as I can. Oh, God. Ugh.
Oh, it's going to
I
dry
hate
in your
this.
eyelashes.
Oh.
Yo,
I called the
God.
damn water company. My bill was due, but not overdue. So I asked to connect to a person. Of course, I cannot touch the phone with my ear or face because I still have residual goo all over me.
Imagine you guys, like, as somebody who used to work in customer service, like phone support, like I don't want to know the things that the people on the other side of the line were doing.
God. I still so speakerphone, this is before speakerphones was a commonplace practice with cell phones. So there I am holding my phone away from my face, trying to have a conversation with the water company rep. She says, "Oh yeah, it looks like there's a water main break on blah 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 John Street. My address is literally right next door." Not really changing. Oh yeah, sorry. I make my way to the window, open up the blinds, peek through, and I see the water gushing, flowing like a river. I seriously considered going out there and just dousing myself in the middle of the street, but I decided against it. So I think the lady hang up and try to think creatively. I'm a tea drinker, and at one time I kept a tea kettle on the stove. And
I was
since
about to say, like I know what I would do in this situation. We got sparklets. There's a hot water side. We're getting a washcloth.
something's about to happen. I thought perhaps there would be just enough water left in it. I was overjoyed to find out there was enough water in the kettle to wash off my face and brush my teeth. Thank God for small victories. Thankfully, the next day, water was restored and I could properly wash away the shame. And at this point, you may be asking, what was the guy doing this whole time?
I was
Nothing.
thinking it.
I was too. Nothing. He did absolutely nothing to help and basically laughed at me while I did my best to get cleaned up.
Okay, now
I guess it should have. Yeah.
now I'm not.
I guess it should have been a
okay
warning.
with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I did regrettably marry the sociopath. Now, 10 years later, I have built up my confidence enough that I am current with my current husband, and that if my current husband were to ask me to do that, I would simply say, no, thanks. Oh, and in case you're wondering, I can never again eat anything with an orange creamsicle flavor without flashing back to that horrific episode.
Oh my God. No.
Seriously, though, thanks for bringing me some levity to an otherwise terrible year. Keep up the great work.
Aw, thanks. No, that's such a sign. You know what I mean? If you're gonna put yourself out there and do something,
Right.
then that's not cool.
Be like Hallmark. Be like Hallmark and care enough to send the very best.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be the issue for me. Not that he asked for something or whatever, but the fact that like you can see him clearly uncomfortable. Any situation where your partner is uncomfortable, you should be stepping in to try and see how you can ease their discomfort. Like I feel like that's just
Human decency.
yes.
Right. And that's not even like, I mean, that's partner, but that's anybody too. You know what I mean? Like, just like you said, just human decency.
Anyone you care about. Yeah.
Right.
Like you just like
okay.
came on her face. You can't like fucking go outside
Try
and
and
like
brainstorm some solutions right now. Like go buy me a bottle of water, sir.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Okay. All right. This is another email. Sorry again about my dog if you can hear her. I don't know. But Ladybird. Okay. This is an email that we got. It says, "Hello, ladies. It's 4 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon at work, and I'm procrastinating so much I've decided to finally take the time to write you the story of the one and only bad date I've had in my 28 years of life." Brag.
Yeah.
She wrote that, not me. I matched with a guy on Tinder. Let's call him Chef. He was cute. We chatted a bit. He was a vegan chef at a restaurant in a city about 45 minutes. Okay, it was actually an hour, but I feel like we have a tradition going now.
So
Drive
true.
away.
So true.
Everywhere
We
is
really
45
do.
minutes from everywhere else.
That's so true.
He currently didn't have a car. We finally arranged to meet in Bristol, which is halfway between us, for lunch. The date was okay. I knew from the start he didn't have potential. He's clearly from money, and I love a bit of rough, not a fan of a posh boy. I got a bit tipsy, had food, had a goodbye kiss, which was pretty good. Shruggy emoji. But again, I'd had a few drinks. It takes ages to arrange date 2 as he's a chef and I'm in car sales. Don't judge, I'm not an asshole.
Oh, no.
I would
Yeah.
get that paper, secure the bag. Our hours clash, and to be honest, I'm losing interest fast, but Tinder is shit and I just can't hump any guy and a girl needs to get dick down.
Hey,
Mhm.
I
Preach.
love this lady.
I get it. I mean, we arranged for date 2 for him to come over to mine on a Saturday night when neither of us are working on the Sunday. He says about spending Sunday, he mentions spending Sunday together, but I'm not keen. I love a Sunday off and I'm not giving it up for a mediocre guy.
Hey, oh my God, dude.
Amen.
She is preaching right now. I feel like I'm going to testify.
I make plans with friends to go to a wedding fair as one is getting married. Saturday comes round and CBA. I don't know what that means. Do you guys know what that means?
CBA?
I meant to Google it before reading this story, but I don't know. But again, girl needs to get dick down. He says he will get us some pizza, doesn't ask me what toppings I like or dislike, which I think is weird, but maybe he's just getting cheese as he's a veggie.
Can't be arsed.
Oh, okay. All right.
There's an acronym. It's used in England, Australia, and New Zealand.
Okay, yeah, all right. That makes sense. Okay. So he's going to go get pizza. He says he will get us some pizza. Doesn't ask me what toppings I like / dislike, which I think is weird. But maybe
really
he's
weird.
just getting cheese since he's a veggie. I would think the same thing. Like if he doesn't eat meat, I'd be like, okay, he's probably just getting a cheese pizza, or something standard.
Yeah,
like I feel like
don't be divisive and be like show up with like fucking
mushrooms.
olives and green
Yes.
peppers and stuff.
Anchovies or whatever. You're like, keep it simple, stupid. I pick him up from the train station and we get back to mine. I ask what pizza he got. He pulls out one vegan pizza, no sides, just one vegan pizza, and then bitches about how it was £5 for one pizza. Dude, you got a vegan pizza from M&S, which is an upscale UK food market. What the fuck did you expect? Also, he's from money. Why is he bitching about £5? And also,
Very expensive for a pizza.
no, I don't think so
Pretty
either.
reasonable.
A vegan one, nonetheless.
I mean,
Right?
maybe that's more expensive. I don't know. I don't know. But also, this is something that annoys me. Like, me and food. Dates are very food-centered events. Okay.
Totally.
Like, I haven't eaten because I'm expecting us to eat, especially if you say that we are eating. And like, from what I'm getting from this, it seems like it's a like personal size vegan pizza, which imagine. No.
Oh.
Also, I do think it's rude if you have dietary restrictions or whatever, but the other person doesn't. Like, I feel like that's something you should communicate on. You shouldn't force somebody to adhere to your dietary restrictions.
Yeah.
Yeah, also, he's from money. Why is he bitching over £5? And also, he didn't have to get that fucking pizza. That was his choice. Why are people from money so cheap? Eat the rich.
Yeah.
So that's the first I wish I canceled. I have a cat. I love her. She's my baby. However, I will say she's a bit of a hoe. Any guy that comes in, she's all over like a tramp on chips.
I love it.
Hindsight, I've probably given her daddy issues with all my relationships, so she's all over him for fusses, and he keeps describing her as frisky and telling me I need to feed her wet food, not kibble. Absolutely not.
okay.
Do not describe my child as frisky and tell me how to raise her.
Yeah, I don't.
Keegan, what if someone came over and was like, started criticizing how you mother
Get
your
out of my
cats?
house.
Honestly.
Get out of my house.
Yeah.
I love my cats.
Speaking of, I have some wet food for your cats.
Yes, thank you very much. I'll have Anthony come get that. But yeah, like I just think that it's rude.
Yeah.
Like, don't come
Yeah.
over and criticize the way that somebody does it. Yeah. Yeah, and also don't call my cat frisky. That's creepy. Second,
I
wish
that's a lot worse in like a British English, a UK English versus.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess frisky is
kind of
a
would be
cat,
something you'd call a cat.
and it is like a cat brand. Friskies is a cat
Friskies,
food
yeah.
brand here.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but like to me, the way that she's saying it
Yeah.
makes it sound like it's some kind of like
Yeah, like cunt
sexy
here
thing.
versus
Yeah,
cunt
I don't
type of
know.
thing.
Yeah.
So that's the second I wish I canceled. We smoke some weed. He keeps asking me if I feel high, and I don't. He keeps saying I don't need to lie to him. Then he proceeded to tell me that
Okay.
Costa Rica is landlocked. Costa Rica, landlocked.
What?
And
Why
and
are you
won't
even talking
accept-
about that on a date?
I don't know, and won't accept that he's wrong on that. I obviously bring it up on maps to prove my point. Third, I wish I canceled. See, this is some Ben
Yeah.
Stiller's going to try and pull this shit on me on a date. Are you mansplaining geography to me,
Oh yeah,
sir?
don't do that to me, sir.
As much as I'd like him to fuck off so I can enjoy my evening in peace, the trains have stopped running. I decide to just roll with it. Roll with it and get my needs met and be done with it. He starts kissing me, and it's so bad, and he uses so much tongue that I actually stop and tell him to use less. Like,
Wow.
you know it's bad when you're like, then whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah.
Sir. Time out.
Oh, wait.
This cannot pass.
No,
No.
you shall not pass, my dude. He tried to put it in without a condom, as he doesn't have one and doesn't like them. I give him one and say it's a must. I don't care if you like it or not.
With these dudes, who raised you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Who raised you?
The sex is awful, and the only reason I came is because I know what I need to do on top to get me there. At this point, it's 11, and I say I'm tired, and shall we sleep? He says he's a bit of a night owl and won't be able to, so I give him the remote and fuck off to bed. I have to say, have these people never engaged in sleepover etiquette?
Yeah.
Like, how many times were you at a sleepover where you're like, I'm not tired, but Jenny's mom says we have to go to bed now. So you do that thing where you lay
in the room where we make fart noises all night and keep her parents up.
Right. And if
me?
she falls asleep, it's like, okay, well, it's not your house. You don't get up and start like roaming around or whatever. Like, you lay in bed and stare at the ceiling and wait to fall asleep.
Mm-hmm.
How many of us have been there when we were kids at sleepovers?
Yep.
What's wrong with you? That's what you do. 24th or something like that. I wish I'd canceled. As I'm in bed messaging my bestie the review of the date, I hear him open a packet of crisps, and I think, oh, so you did bring sides and you were just too cheap to share. When he comes up, he tried to cuddle up, and I'm like, oh, hell no. My vagina has sealed herself. She does not want the pencil dick anywhere near her.
Oh, no.
So I say, I'm really hot, and can he not? Like, get off me.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
I wake up early. He's asleep. I see my opportunity. I quietly get out of bed and go to the bathroom to have a shower, giving him no opportunity to try and fuck me again. I go into the bathroom and I see he went for a piss that night and didn't flush. And FYI, the dude needed to drink more water.
Oh,
Again,
no.
have no etiquette about being in someone else's home. What?
Come
what?
on.
What?
Ugh.
I hate that.
Ew.
I hate that.
Bro.
I jump in the shower. Then 5 minutes in, he's knocking on the door. He's looked at the train times, and the next one is in 10 minutes, and there isn't another one for 2 hours. I tell him he will make that one in 10 minutes to get his shit together, and I'll be right out. I launch myself out of the shower, still have shampoo in my hair, chuck on the nearest clothes, and hightail it to the train station. Like, it's so bad that you're like, the thought of one more hour with you. I can't deal. When he gets out, I peeled out of that car park like I'm in the Fast and the Furious.
That's right.
I get home, go about my day, have lunch with my friends, tell them the story of the shit date, and we all have a good laugh at my expense. I get home and later that evening feel a bit peckish and think, ooh, I could just go for a packet of crisps. I go to the cupboard, and you guessed it. That motherfucker went through my cupboards and helped himself to the last packet of crisps I had.
No.
The food stuff is what's making me the most furious, to be honest. You know how I am about food, and I would be legit pissed. And sometimes you really are just craving that like one thing. All of us who are in relationships have been there, right? Where you're like, I know I have this thing in the fridge. And then you go to get it, and you're like, my significant other has eaten it.
And you're like, secretly for that moment, you hate their guts.
Yes, for sure. And you're like, no, it's fine. But inside, furious.
Not fine.
And then if it was someone you didn't like who'd done that,
oof, even worse.
Yeah.
If you ate my salt and vinegar chips, I'm mad.
Yeah.
Okay. I swear this is the date that made me give up on app dating. Hindsight, I really should have canceled. Thanks for reading, and sorry it's a long one. Love the pod and have successfully introduced not to yuck anyone's yum into many people's vocabulary now. Lorna. Oh, man.
Oh, my God. Her writing, too, was fierce. I love her. I love her. Okay. So I got mine from Reddit. She says, I've been chatting to this guy in my English Lit tutorial for a few weeks and kind of had a crush on him. Eventually asked him if he'd like to grab dinner with me, and he said yes. We'd also been messaging each other on and off throughout the semester, so I was super excited. First of all, he insisted on making the reservations for our date. Fine, whatever. He ended up picking a local Italian restaurant, and we made plans to meet there at 7 p.m. I showed up before him and told the waitress at the door that I had a reservation for 2 under date's name at 7 p.m. The lady was super confused and said she didn't have any reservations under that name. I tried just his first name, then perhaps my name. There was no reservation. Finally, I asked if the restaurant just had a table for 2 available, and luckily they did, but at the bar. Figured that was better than nothing and went with that. Then he showed up 15 minutes late, made a huge deal about how he was sure he made a reservation, came this close to asking for a manager, and then...
Oh, Jesus, Karen.
Like, dude, we have a table. Relax.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like we got it. Like, because if you were sure you'd made a reservation and there was no table for you, I could see being like,
That's
kind of
different,
upset
right?
about that. But it's like, at the end of the day, dude, it's a first date. We have a table together. Chill out.
Yeah.
It's fine.
No one wants to date Karen. So then he acquiesced and sat down beside me at the bar. Next up, we ordered our starters and got to talking. This is when I realized that he loses the ability to modulate his voice when he's drunk.
Oh, no.
As in he'll
Oh, no.
shout certain words and say others super softly.
Man.
What?
No.
Why?
I don't know why when I read that, I started laughing. And I woke up like in the middle of the night last night. And so I was like, oh, okay, like I'll get my date ready because we're recording early in the morning. And this part, it just made me think of that Will Ferrell character. He's like, I cannot control the volume of my voice.
My voice.
We were talking about a TV show we both liked, and we did Poldark, and we discussed Ross cheating on Demelza. I can't say that. Demelza. I haven't seen that show.
No
Anyways,
idea.
It was at this point he said, I was so mad at Ross for cheating. Like, hello, you're married. Keep it in your pants. This pretty much brought the restaurant to a standstill.
For real. Like, imagine if you hear. Do you know how quick our like ears would perk up if somebody yelled that in our presence? It would be like, what's going on over there?
Yeah, we'd be like that Kris Kardashian. Like, this pretty much brought the restaurant to a standstill. Heads turned our way. Everyone was gaping at us. I wanted to die. I smiled awkwardly and whispered he should keep it down so we don't disturb others. When it was time to order our mains, he made this big show of letting me order anything I wanted on the menu. Like, I can totally afford whatever you want. Great. I ordered a pumpkin salad and a glass of wine. He kept urging me to order something more expensive in a really cringy way. You're a lady.
Ew.
You shouldn't be picking up the tab. I'll pay for whatever you want.
Okay, well then buy
Cool.
my salad. I don't know what to tell
This
you.
is what I want.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Then our mains arrived, and I learned that the guy cannot use cutlery. Like
What?
Like he was genuinely having trouble getting spaghetti onto his fork and kept dripping sauce onto his chin and shirt.
Was he nervous? Was
And it wasn't just a one-off case of oops, Butterfingers dropped my fork. It was sustained, prolonged. I have no idea how these foreign objects work. I'm quite sure a robot would have been able to handle cutlery with more grace. I just picture the shouting guy like,
Oh my God. Just fucking
flailing
shouting.
spaghetti.
Oh my God.
So that got super distracting, super quick. Try holding a conversation with a guy who's dribbling sauce onto his clothes and randomly shrieking at you. It's not conducive to romance. Then came time to order coffee, and he made this big show about how well he knows me by trying to guess whether I'd order coffee or tea. He guessed that I prefer coffee, I prefer tea, and ordered a double espresso for me, which I'm not entirely fond of. I wanted to order a panna cotta for myself, and he wanted tiramisu. He said sharing a dessert would be more romantic and ordered the tiramisu. Like, great. Thanks for ordering for me.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I don't like when people order for you. Again, back on the food thing. I want what
Don't
I
like
want. I don't want you. I don't get the ordering for thing. I don't know if it's supposed to be some like alpha male show of dominance or like whatever that is, but I'm not interested. I want what I want. And in this case, if I wanted tea and panna cotta, then like that's what I want. And if you want to share a dessert, then let's discuss what we want.
Exactly.
Together.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I won't even eat tiramisu. I cannot stand
It's a little wet bread. You know how I feel about wet bread.
Ugh. It's horrible.
When the dessert arrived, he kept suggestively licking his spoon, then offering me a bite off of it. Now, of course, coronavirus.
Please do not.
In COVID times, that's a hard pass, my friend. No. I mean, even in the best of times, I have to say, like, that's not my favorite.
No, even in the best of times, absolutely fucking not.
May I remind you that this man couldn't fathom the deep complexities of knives and forks. Spoons were also a mystery for him. It was like watching a dog lap peanut butter off the wall.
Oh, no.
I told him I was full from dinner, declined his repeated offers of dessert, took a few gulps of my espresso, and just prayed this date would end soon. Once we'd left the restaurant, he offered to drive me home. I told him I'd driven to the restaurant and that I could drive myself home. Then he remembered something I'd said from earlier. He remembered that I still live with my parents. So then he got excited because he wanted to meet my parents. After the first date.
You're going to introduce your parents to this guy who's got spaghetti sauce all over his dress shirt? Like, why?
Hello, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so. It's very nice to meet you.
I dodged his attempt at a kiss. He ended up kissing my ear, told him I wasn't ready to see someone, and speed walked back to my car. I avoided him for the rest of the semester, which he spent glaring at me. Wonderful. Whew. Oh my God, just somebody yelling at you while like fumbling with forks. It's just,
oh my God.
Oh my God.
Fucking
Sometimes
hilarious.
it's just like the little things though. When you don't like somebody already, little things just become even more like, I remember
they become louder.
I remember like towards the end how I knew like my marriage was over. It's just those things that maybe used to be cute, like in the beginning, are the things that like make you want to set them on fire.
Rip their hair off.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
What was it for you? I need to know. Like chewing suddenly. You're like, why are you chewing this way?
It was
breathing.
Just about everything.
Why are you breathing in my direction?
It was afternoon naps for him. Like every day when I would come home, he would be asleep on the couch, and it literally,
the dog hadn't been taken out. Nothing.
Yeah, the level of fury that I would get, I mean, fucking furious about it. When it's not that big of a
I know
deal,
that stuff makes, but okay, it's like those little things add up because I know you were in a similar situation to one that I was in the past, where you were doing the majority of the like breadwinning, paying bills, like taking care of business, and it's like the least you could do is like be awake when I come home. Like, because now all I'm thinking is like have the courtesy to take your nap when I'm not here. Because now when I come home, all I'm thinking is that like you've been asleep all day, not doing shit. And that might not be true, but that's the message I'm getting because I just came home from a long day of work. I'm pissed.
Yep.
I would be pissed too.
Yeah. So,
all right. Are you guys ready?
I'm very excited because you've sent us some text messages. I have no idea what you're doing, but
I've been working on this.
You seem very stoked about it.
I've been working on this for days. This story has everything.
Ooh.
It has love. It has broken hearts. It has love triangles. It has real love. It has murder. It has possible cannibalism.
I was gonna say, is there cannibalism and or incest? Cassie, you have to let the people know. They have to be warned before we get into it.
There's questionable cannibalism.
I don't even know what that means, but okay.
Yeah. There's cannibal speculation, let me say.
Oh my God.
All right.
Oh no.
You guys,
I'm
first of all,
ready.
you know I love to share with you how many notes I have about a topic, about a story.
Approximately 1.5 million, I'm seeing.
Yeah. It's a fucking lot. It's thick. So,
Oh, she thick.
I'm going to get to it. The shit is thick. The story is thick. All right. So, I got most of my material from a Rolling Stone article, which is what I found by Melissa Locker, which led me to a documentary 4-part series on ID called Dead North.
Ooh.
Dude, you
Okay.
know, whenever you get it. First of all, I think I've seen Dead North. I can't remember, but you know, whenever you get so into a story that you are willing to watch and or listen to multiple parts.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's how it was for me with Natalie Wood. I'm like, I damn near listened to a whole podcast season. Like, when you get so into one where you're like, I'm willing to spend hours of my life dedicated to researching this.
So here's the thing. I started researching this and I was like, God, this sounds really fucking familiar. And I was like, I literally had to go through, of course, like, you know, we always are like, oh, this sounds familiar. I swear, did we do this already? So I did all that. And then I'll tell you how it's familiar. So Dead North is the show. It shows kind of the story of the chief, Laura Frizzo, who made it her mission to solve this actual case. And then I also watched the Snapped episode of Kelly Cochran. Now, I was like, why does Kelly Cochran sound familiar? Why do pieces of this sound familiar? Well, good friend of the pod, who has his own show called True Crime Bullshit.
Oh, hey.
His latest season, which I hadn't listened to because I'm a binger, so I was waiting for it to all be up. His season was about Kelly Cochran.
Oh, okay.
And so...
Okay, so I didn't see this on ID. I was thinking of something else. All right.
So I did all the research for this and have now started going back to listen to True Crime Bullshit, which I highly recommend. After you listen to this story, you guys should go back now, and then I'll explain why I think it's important that you go now then to check out the True Crime Bullshit, because
yeah, and Josh is Josh Hallmark,
yes,
who
Hallmark,
hosts True Crime Bullshit, is so great.
Ugh.
He's such a good podcast host. He's great at researching, and he's a really nice guy too. So go check that out.
Okay, so it's 2014, October. The story begins in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Terry O'Donnell comes to the police station to report that her ex-boyfriend is missing. Terry and her ex-boyfriend, Chris Regan, had been dating for about a year and a half, almost 2 years. And they had actually met each other years before so Chris Regan was ex-military. He was in the military when they had met. So he, had to go off travel. They, were friends at the time and didn't really go beyond that because of his job, right? So his job ends up bringing him back to Traverse City, Michigan. He ends up meeting Terry again, and they rekindle their relationship. And that's how they, just kind of reintroduce themselves to each other. So Terry is like, ends up moving to Iron River, which is in the Upper Peninsula, to be near and to be with Terry. So 2 years pass, the relationship, they decide go different ways. They're just not necessarily happy any longer. So, this is, their relationship's been over now for, I think, a few months at this point, but they still keep in contact. And this is when she shows up at the police station. She meets the police chief, Laura Frizzo, and tells her, like, hey, my boyfriend is gone. Like or my ex-boyfriend is gone. He's missing. I know this is foul play. There's something wrong. Something's going on. This is not like him. He did just get a job offer to go to North Carolina, but he wouldn't just leave. I just spoke to him on the 13th or the 14th, and he had, messaged me saying that he had a drug test the next day. But no one has heard from him since. And so this is like, I think 10 days after that at this point. And so 10th, October 10th was last time she'd heard from him. Prior to that, which was like a brief conversation. But then, like I said, on the 13th, it was either the 13th or the 14th. Oh yeah, the 14th, he had shared, again, like I said, that he had the drug test the next morning, and that was his last step before accepting this position to move to Asheville, North Carolina, right? So this was the final step. He was going to go in, he was going to take this drug test, and then he'd be good to go for this new job opportunity. Well, apparently he never showed up for his appointment, which is really concerning because she's like, that's just not like him at all. And the other weird thing that she noticed is that she hadn't heard from him, but also she noticed that his car, she kind of lived on the outskirts of town. And so she passed this park and ride, and she's like, his car has been sitting in this park and ride parking lot for like over a week now. And it's
Never
kind of
a
like
good sign.
right. And it's a really kind of nice car, right? It's the Genesis, which I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with. It's a nicer, I think it's like a Nissan or something, Genesis, but they're like, or a Hyundai or something like that, but they're really fucking nice cars. And she's like, this is just not him at all. He's not going to leave his really fucking nice car sitting in this park and ride for especially an extended period of fucking time. So, you know, all these concerns, she's telling the chief and her sergeant, who, by the way, the police chief and her sergeant are both women, which is awesome and badass, especially in a small town in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm getting Fargo vibes, and I love it.
Totally. So Chief Rizzo sends out her sergeant to go out and check out the apartment. She goes there. So here's the other weird part of this. Terry's parents actually own the apartment complex in which which Chris Regan was living in. And Chris, you know, so her parents are basically his landlord, which is a little funny, right? So she's able to get a key to the place. So they do a walkthrough. She takes the sergeant with her, and they do a walkthrough through the apartment. The officer and her both are like, this is really strange. Like, the place looks a little rummaged through. It just feels very off. Mm-hmm. But the other big thing is like, yeah, you know, he is moving, so there's boxes everywhere and stuff, but there definitely is no sign. And then there's like lists of like, you know, things that need to be, like a checklist of stuff that, like, things that need to be done before his big move. So, you know, the big thing that they're finding from this is like, okay, yeah, the place is rummaged a bit and it feels disheveled, but the biggest problem, or the biggest thing is like, it doesn't seem like he would just take off. That's
right. He had plans, clearly.
He had plans. Right.
Yeah.
So this doesn't look like somebody who just went off to kill themselves, or just ran away, or just moved without telling anybody.
Right.
Like, this is a period of time cut out. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Right? Like, it's like abrupt stop. It's weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a record scratch is what. So, she's also insistent. She's like, we really need to go check out this park and ride car situation too, because she's like, this is super fucking weird that his car is out here in the middle of nowhere, which is just so unlike him. And she's like, and Terry, when they're interviewing her, she's just like, all I could think is like, oh my God, is his body in this fucking car? Like, she's like, I just knew deep in my soul, like, there is foul fucking play here.
How long had it been?
Oh,
like
it's
been
like
like
10 days. Yeah,
okay,
like 10 days or so. Yeah. So at this point, she's like, this is just, it's too bizarre for this to be anything but there is something going on. Mm-hmm. So she
for
takes
sure.
her out
I would think the same thing. Mm-hmm. If I hadn't heard from one of you in 10 days and your car had been sitting somewhere, for sure.
Yeah, that'd be my first thought too.
Sergeant goes out to the car with her. They look through the car. They're, you know, looking everywhere. The cool thing too about this Dead North thing is that there's so much body cam footage. So it's kind of like the Chris
that documentary
I need
was
to see.
Wild.
Yep.
So fucking crazy.
And so that's the cool part too, because you have audio and visual of the actual events as they're unfolding. So it's not like it's not like somebody's like, oh, well, he said, she said. It's like they actually are there. So, and she said one of the things, they do have a couple reenactment kind of things, but most of it really is just the footage of them. And so, you know, it shows them looking around the car and everything. And the sergeant said the only things that they really found were a knee brace because Chris had just recently had some knee surgery. She's like, he wouldn't be out and about. So this is near a really wooded area. And, you know, like, especially where the park and ride is, they could have, I mean, you know, he could have just parked here and gone for a hike and got lost, right? It happens. These are, there's enormous amounts of woods. I mean, this is Upper Peninsula. You're on, I mean, you're practically in Canada at this point. You know what I mean? And so you've woods everywhere. It's just, you know, unlikely
it's easy
that
get
you went
lost
hiking.
too, man. I got lost going for a hike last weekend. So
oh shit, that's
For
scary
sure.
too.
What?
That's scary when you get lost in the woods.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Dude.
And you know, especially the woods, like if you're depending on where you are, like you don't have cell reception. So you have no way to contact somebody to come find you.
Right. Well, so that's the thing is like, you know, this knee brace is in the car. It's not like he's going to go hiking. He's definitely not going to go hiking without a knee brace because he had just had surgery on his knee. So that's just, okay. Number one, weird. Number two, the other thing they found in the car was a piece of note paper that had like written directions to like a location, right? So they follow the directions and it leads them to this house. And the house belongs to a Kelly and Jason Cochran. And so in the other side of the research, you know, they're kind of finding out a little bit more about who is Chris Regan, what does he do, where does he come from, blah, 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 what's his background, who is this guy. They find that he's been working at this facility, which from what I gather does like military like implementation as far as like building things for the military, right?
Okay.
That makes sense. Like a manufacturing type place, right?
I see.
So he's been working there, and that's actually where he met Kelly Cochran. Kelly Cochran is a coworker of his at the same facility. So what they find out though is that the two of them have been carrying on a relationship for a few months.
Of course they have.
Yeah. And at this time, Kelly's actually married. So Kelly has been having an affair with him. And so they're like, well, I need to know more about this. And so the sergeant goes out, raps on the door. Jason Cochran comes to the door. And he's just very like kind of aggressive with the police. And he's like, no, Kelly's not even here.
Always a good idea. Just be aggressive right off the bat. That's not suspicious or weird.
Nope, not weird at all. And he's like, no, Kelly's not even here. Here comes Kelly.
Dude, coordinate at least. Bare minimum.
Right. Right. So here comes Kelly. Turns out, guess what? She is there. And she comes out, and I guess the officer's like, she's super fucking polite, like really nice, like kind of a complete contrast to Jason, who kind of is aggressive and really standoffish.
Again, guys, you're a couple. Like, let me give you some free advice. Communicate.
Well,
like,
I mean,
you gotta get your shit right before you.
She wouldn't have been having an affair if they were right.
Fair.
Yeah, I'm sure communication isn't the only breakdown in their relationship.
It's not, and I will tell you more about that. So Kelly and Jason actually had met each other in Indiana. They were neighbors. So growing up, they literally were like next door neighbors. She literally married the boy next door, right? So, you know, they had, as soon as Kelly graduated high school, they got married. And then in February of 2014, middle of dead ass winter, they decide to move from Indiana to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
For why?
I guess they just love the color white. Because the only thing I can imagine is you just love
real cold
snow.
Weather. They like frozen weather.
You know what? What is the closest thing to a tundra that we have that still could be in the U.S.? We could just.
I mean, they could have gone to Alaska, but like maybe they weren't trying to travel that far.
Yeah,
right. So they've been married for quite some time. However, you know, word around town, word amongst her friends and coworkers is that Jason actually had when they had a business back in Indiana, they had owned a pool cleaning business, which how many pools are there in you know?
I don't know. People out here have pools. It gets hot.
I mean, yeah.
For like 3 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah.
3 seconds of warm weather, and that's your pool cleaning business. Could possibly be 3 months out of the year.
Yeah.
At any rate, that's their business. Jason ended up hurting himself. So what happened is that Kelly really became the main sole provider for them because Jason was unable to work. He really was unable to do many things. One of those things is that his pain and his injury actually caused him to become impotent. And according to them, one of the reasons that they wanted to move to Michigan specifically was because Jason wanted to get a medical marijuana card for his pain. So to control, or make his pain manageable. So that seems legit, right? So that being said, Kelly really had, she's like the sole provider. She's taking multiple jobs. What they do is they interview a lot of her coworkers at these different locations, some past coworkers and stuff. Again, this is all on like this video camera, like that hit them being interviewed and stuff. It's really cool. But all these like ex-coworkers and stuff are basically all saying the same thing. Kelly is very sweet. She's very outgoing. Everybody loves her. She's amazing. She's this really cool girl, very, very kind, the kind of person who would, mow the neighbor's lawn for them, just like very sweet girl, right?
Suspect. I watched enough ID to know. I'm like, suspect. You're suspect.
And you're telling me this story,
Right.
and I'm absorbing this, and I'm like, okay. So she's working constantly to do everything, to pay all the bills. And I'm sure she's doing stuff around the house. And that resentment builds. She's not getting laid. Somebody that's constantly in pain and isn't, giving.
And is probably in a bad mood because they're constantly in pain.
Correct.
That's part of it.
She comes home and
Also
is high all the the
Yeah.
anger that must be just breeding inside her is we were
and
just
all he
talking
does
about that. That's crazy.
And apparently all he does is play online video games.
Oh.
In fact, like the person who knows him best is his best friend is somebody he knows through online gaming.
Both me and Christina immediately, we've been there. Nothing wrong with having a hobby of enjoying like an online video game. But if you are getting high all the time
And
not working and sitting at home and playing video games all day, nothing dries up my vagina faster.
I was
Let me just tell
say,
you.
yeah, it doesn't matter that you're impotent because you wouldn't be getting this pussy. Anyways,
Lock it down.
Lock it down.
Lock it down.
Yeah. So the coworkers of her that are like, Kelly's amazing, Kelly is great, but her husband is a real piece of shit and he's abusive and he's jealous and they have a really, really volatile relationship and he's really dangerous basically. And so every coworker of hers is saying this, like he's super dangerous. She's amazing, but he's a real monster. Like he's a real piece of work. Look out for him. Right. However, none of them actually have ever met him. And so this is all from just Kelly, what she's telling people. But the story is the same from all of her coworkers, from anybody who's known her. It's all the same thing. She's great. Jason's jealous freak. Right.
Yeah, I gotta say, don't trust Kelly for sure.
Well, the sergeant, after she had met with the couple, went to the house. Chief Rizzo's like, or she goes to Chief Rizzo and she's like, I have nothing to go off of except for my gut, but my gut is telling me shit ain't right. So I think we should bring them in. And Chief Rizzo's like, you know what? Whatever you say, I trust you. So she's like, go for it. So they bring in Kelly and Jason and they do separate interviews with them. Well, they interview Kelly. Kelly's like, yeah, so my husband, Jason, and I have a great relationship. It's so great that even though he's impotent, he has allowed me to have an open relationship so that I can fulfill my sexual needs however and whenever I'd like, with whomever I like, because he's just such a great guy and totally understanding, right? And so, yeah, I definitely was having an affair or in a relationship with Chris. I was also having a relationship with this dude named Eric. This is just, happens. And, I really like these people. And I was really, really into Chris specifically because which is really weird that I just realized that it was Chris and Eric. It's totally cool. Anywho, so she's like, yeah, he's totally cool with it. And, last time I heard from him was like the 14th or 15th too. I don't know. Everybody said he's gone and I don't know what's going on. But if you hear from him, I would love to hear from him too. This is really strange.
Kind of weird that you're here telling the police that your husband's such a great guy when you've literally told every other person in your life that he sucks balls.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Yeah, she would have been better off to stick to let's see her master plan.
So in comes Jason. And again, this is all video footage. Before he even fucking starts the interview, he's like, hey guys, just FYI, I was in a mental institution, just recently got out. I have major anxiety and depression issues, and I have a doctor's note to say so. Right? He immediately sits down and starts crying.
Okay.
And yeah. And the police, like, sergeant's like, okay, well, calm down. We're just going to ask you a few questions. According to Jason was not cool that she was having, affairs on him. She's like, yeah. He's like, I was really upset. Like, it's really.
Again, coordination. Y'all, you got to get your story straight.
You could have talked on
What
the
were you thinking?
the way over.
Yeah, like, what? Okay. All right.
Yeah. Well, they didn't apparently at all. And he's just like, yeah, no, this is very upsetting to me. And I don't even understand why we're even fucking here. Yeah, she's had some affair on me with this dude and he's missing, but I don't know what that has to do with us. Right. So that's, not much else they can do at this point because they're just like, okay, well, we have no reason to necessarily suspect them and we can't put them really for sure together. So, but, they are curious about her husband's involvement because they're like, yeah, so you're not happy about this. But you're also telling me you're not the jealous spouse, that wouldn't make you very angry. And, so his side of the story about not really happy with this relationship, he tells them, he's like, but what am I to do? What am I to do with this information? I can't really do anything about it. So I'm going to, quote, either accept it or let it go. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that's where he stands.
It's a unhealthy marriage.
Yeah. On October 16th, this is 2 days after Chris went missing, he checked himself into a mental hospital. So that is literally the timeline of Jason going into the mental hospital was literally 2 days after this all went down with Chris going missing, right? So the timeline's very suspect too. And so they're like, wait, you went into this mental institution because you had a mental breakdown and it doesn't have anything to do with a missing person that's connected to you somehow. Like, it sounds very much like you did something and then you got fucked about it, and it put you in a real fucked up headspace. And so you decided to get some help with that, right? So that being said, they are also able to recover some text from between Kelly and her husband, where he is pleading her to stop fooling around. Please just be with him. Please just be a wife to me. This is how.
Why would Kelly lie? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, did she not think she was going to get found out? Like, why not just tell the truth? Like, yes, I was running around. No, my husband didn't like it, but we have nothing to do with this. Why not go that route instead of, because, okay, yeah, not smart.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Just days into the investigation, the chief gets a call from a Chris Regan Jr. and it's his son. And so she already got a missing person report from the ex-girlfriend. Also, too, she's like, Chief Frizzo is like, I don't have really all the resources necessary to do this case alone. So she calls in the state police to help her out. The state police automatically are like, yep, ex-girlfriend, think we got it locked up. You're good, right? Okay. And she's like, I don't think so. And yes, it's very likely suspect, first and foremost, to just immediately go to the person A who, reports them missing, or, is directly involved, or especially since it's an ex-girlfriend, there could be jealousy, et cetera, et cetera. But she's like, no, I don't know. I think this Kelly person might be more interesting to me. Where was I? Sorry, the story is super fucking long and I'm trying to make sure I stay on track. Oh, so his son calls. His son had plans to reconnect with his estranged father, and they were actually going to move in together in North Carolina. And he hasn't heard from his father, so he's like, hey, police department, I don't know anybody up there where he's been living, but I think it's suspect that I haven't heard from my dad, who I'm supposed to be moving into an apartment with, and he's not here, and he was supposed to be here. Can you do a safety check, or a safety check on him?
Wellness check, yeah.
Wellness, thank you. That's what I was looking for. And they were like, funny. Nope, he's been missing. No wellness check needed. He is definitely missing. So they know for now, for sure, that he didn't move, because that was the other thing. People were like, well, maybe he just decided to go ahead and go. He's Audi 5000. And that wasn't the case.
Do people actually do that, though? Is that why, like, police even think that that's a thing, that people just, like, walk out of their lives? Is that common enough?
That's the thing.
It has to.
I feel like it has happened, okay?
Sure.
Like, we know that it has happened at one time or another, but is it common enough for that to be one of the very first things that police go to?
Yeah.
Like, because I feel like that comes up in all of these missing, like, person stories. Well, maybe they just walked away. And it's like,
okay,
how often does that actually happen? Do people just be like... I'm sure it happens sometimes, but especially in this day and age, it's not
gotta
like
be more rare than people actually being...
Right?
Yeah.
You can't just like move to the next town over, change your name, and be like, well, done deal. Like, there's a whole rigmarole that has to happen. Like, if you're trying to continue living your life, you can't just start over new somewhere.
Yeah, and if it is a common thing, I want that ID show, like, immediately, if not sooner.
Immediately. Yeah. Where is it? We've got ID shows on, like, dead people in swamps, dead people in pools, right? Okay. Like, I'm like, well, where is the ID show on people who just picked up and changed their whole goddamn life?
Yeah. What do you think it would be called, too?
It would be something with a lot of alliteration.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
It's always tons of alliteration.
Done and gone or something.
Oh my God, there actually
Up and
is
left.
a show. Up and left. I hope it's up and left.
We're trademarking that right now.
Actually,
yes.
like, that is actually, I would listen
Done.
to that podcast, Up and Left. Just like
For sure.
people that are just like literally in the middle of their workday, they put down their coffee cup and they just like walk. And they're like, I just ended up in.
I gotta go. I'll be back. I'm gonna go buy a pack of smokes. Never came home. Why was that ever like a trope? Obviously, again, this must have been something that was a real problem back in who knows when. But all right. So also too, here's the big issue is, they've been doing searches. They're searching the woods. They're searching everywhere for Chris. They're like, at this point, body, whatever. But they're also in the Upper Peninsula, and this is October. So just like Game of Thrones, winter is a-coming, right? Mm-hmm. And as soon as winter hits, you're fucked. There is nothing you can do really until the spring at that point, because there's just, you can't do anything, right? Yeah. So winter's coming, nothing's happening. They're not finding a whole lot more information. And two, this is like, we're pushing on timeline, and Chief Frizzo is like, this is like, there's only like, I think 4 people in the department. It's a really small department. So, and the county planner, whoever is in charge, is like, I don't necessarily want you spending all your time on this. You're becoming a little bit obsessed. And she's like, Yeah, well, because we have a missing person. And just because the state police are like, yep, sounds like he just went away. Or possibly her.
What year is this?
This
This
is
is literally 2014.
Yeah, no.
14.
I mean, like, there would be a paper trail. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You know how I feel like you'd have to be real smart and committed to start over and leave not a trace of where you have gone. Like, take
And
nothing
also-
with you, not your passport, not your social security number or card, like nothing, and just start over new somewhere.
Well, and also, too, the thing of it is that he is supposed to go someplace and start over new. And that place is like, hey, he's not here. The place that he was supposed to start over new and leave to come to, it's not here. He's not here.
Yeah.
And not happening. So something is awry. And she's just like, I'm going to get to the fucking bottom of this if it costs me my fucking job. Like, I don't give a shit. So she starts putting in the hours, all the extra time, weekends, everything. And again, getting flack from all the higher ups in town. But the town itself comes together and they are like, we support Chief Frizzo, let her do her job. And they're like, they actually do a very successful fundraiser to help keep the investigation open. Also, 2 local private investigators helped join the investigation just to help out. So, I mean, this is a small town. Like, this isn't, murder doesn't just happen here. So people really, really want to get to the bottom of this and want to know, what's going on. So finally, after, some investigation work and putting in the time and the efforts, Chief Frizzo is able to finally obtain a search warrant. When they go to execute the search warrant of Kelly and Jason Cochran's house, immediately, they volunteer that there's a .22 rifle underneath the entertainment center. Like, just, hey, FYI, we do have a weapon in the house. Here's where it's at. They also find dozens of swords, knives, bows and arrows, numerous weapons. They find bats. They find shit.
Hey,
everywhere.
What is this? Like, it's 2006. You don't need a sword.
No.
I'm sorry.
2014.
Like, you don't need a sword.
It's not wall art.
2014.
Yeah. Like, what's happening, guys?
Yeah. Well, crime scene investigators come in, and they find blood cast off onto the ceiling of the actual living room. It had been painted over, but they do see that there's cast off on the ceiling, and they detect it with, all their secret
luminol. Was it
Yeah.
luminol?
Luminol. So, okay. Without the details, though, of the forensics, it's just, it could, at this point, just because you have a little bit of blood on your ceiling does not murder you make. It could be from animal. It could be whatever.
How
So
are
at
you
this
getting
point-
animal blood on your ceiling?
Yeah.
Like, what kind of acrobatics are you doing in the kitchen? That's like,
Listen,
you're
it's not
throwing
even in the
steaks
kitchen.
around?
It's in their living room.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
No.
happens all the time.
You're
That
like,
is also where I
whenever
cut
we
meat.
sacrificed that goat in the living room that one time for that satanic ritual we had, that's how we got blood up there. Like, what?
No.
So Jason and Kelly can't be at the house, of course. So they go to the neighbor's house, while this is all going on, and they're just hanging out next door. It's like 10 hours that they're doing, like collecting evidence and going through the house. And, without really any details and without like the forensics actually being processed yet, they can't really arrest them, and they don't have any prior convictions. So it's not like having weapons in their house is not illegal. Any of the things that are happening, they can't prove anything illegal has taken place there at this point, right? They do have swabs of blood and things like this, but this place has been pretty fucking cleaned over. Plus they had been doing remodeling and things in the home. So, the house, from the first time they had gone and visited the house to this point, it's just been, things have changed a lot, right? So painting, all kinds of stuff has happened in this place up until this point, right? So that next morning, when they go back to get more information, guess what, guys? The Cochrans are gone. Cochrans were like, you know what? We're gonna
they up
you know
and
what?
left.
We're just gonna
They up and left. They sure did.
they were just like, you know what? I think remember remember how nice it was in Indiana? We'll just bring that weed that we got with us from Michigan to Indiana.
That's smart. Great. When you already got the law on your tail, let's just bring some marijuana with us to a place where we shouldn't. Cool. Sounds good.
So the neighbors, where they were hanging out while this was going on, they're like, you know what? We need to find out what they talked about when they were over there. The neighbors are interviewed. They say Kelly and Jason were both extremely nervous during the search. The woman who lived there said that on the night Chris went missing, she had heard a gunshot, and all the days since then, they were sawing, working on the house at all hours of the night. They heard saws.
You didn't think maybe you should volunteer this information?
Exactly. Exactly.
They ask her this, and
People
she's like,
are so
well,
lucky
you never
that
asked.
they don't have us as neighbors, because I'd be like 9-1 fucking 1.
Amen.
She's like, well, you guys never asked. That was her response.
Also,
You never
how
asked.
nervous would you be if you had your neighbors over during a murder investigation while their house is being searched and they're acting all squirrely? Like, I'd be like, you're sitting on one side of the living room, they're sitting on the other side of the living room.
Yeah. I think that they actually ended up recording them suspiciously, like, or surreptitiously during that time that they were there too. Like the homeowners, like the neighbors.
So you're suspicious enough to record your interactions with them while they're in your home, but not suspicious enough to maybe like let the cops in on.
Right.
Well, they have to come to you and ask.
Because, that's the thing. Like, the whole town knows that this guy's gone, and they're next door neighbors with this, hearing
Prime
this stuff.
suspects.
I just think, I mean, yes, should they have asked? Absolutely. But you should have fucking volunteered, too.
Yeah. Somebody's missing. You know that the cops are checking out your neighbors, but you're okay, cool. Anyway, excuse me, sorry. The neighbors had hung out with them multiple times too. So this is like, especially in the days after when Chris went missing, they were actually invited over to a cookout. The one guy says that was unusual because the couple, they had hung out with them multiple times before. Dude was like, I like smoking pot. Broheem has pot. I like to go over and smoke out with Broheem. And sometimes we go sit around the fireplace or their fire pit in the backyard. And that's kind of what we do, right? It's very small town cash, right? We're friends because we're neighbors. We have a few things in common. That thing in common is we like to smoke the pot, right? So, but they're neighbors, and that happens. Like, sometimes you just get close to your neighbors and it's easy. You walk over, you do cookouts, that kind of stuff happens. But they weren't the kind of couple to host cookouts because they were always short on cash. Like, they never had any money. And Kelly's really the only one working, having to work multiple jobs just to make ends meet. So for them to be invited over for a meal was sudden and definitely random.
No. Oh, no.
And they also had a feast.
No.
Of meat, and according to that neighbor, they had nearly $150 to $200 worth of meat.
Your mouth.
Jason, though, told the neighbor, he was like, "Hey, yeah, I was a butcher back in Indiana, so I specialized in exotic meat. So if this tastes funny, it's just because was my job. I got some meat from work."
Oh, no.
And it's exotic meat. Don't ask me what kind. It's definitely just exotic meat. And we're going to leave it at that.
First of all, if anyone tells me not to ask what kind of meat
I
I'm
don't think
eating,
he actually... I was being a little hyperbole there.
I need an answer from you. Like, you got to tell me. If it's zebra, okay, but like, you got to say that.
It's exotic.
1. How fucking incredible. Okay, let's go through the timeline for the neighbor. They hear a gunshot.
Saws.
They know the town knows someone's missing. Neighbors are like, come over and eat exotic meat.
After they've been like sawing and hammering away at their house.
Oh my God.
Full disclosure, dudes. Bro is a stoner, okay? He's the only one who is connecting these dots, and certainly this is 100% speculation, right? At this point. So nobody knows for sure.
I can't get over like
it is suspect though.
I can't get over eating something that you don't know what it is.
Thank you.
Like, I would never.
Listen, I'm down to try a lot of things at least once, but I am.
But you gotta tell me.
You gotta tell me what it is. Yeah. Don't be like,
I need to know
this. And I'll tell you what it is after you eat it. I'm like,
it's a surprise.
No.
Like, I don't play that at all.
No. Yeah.
So lab results are finally coming back in. Also, too, the private detectives. So at this point, missing couple, suspicious meat people are gone, right? Private detectives had put a tracking device on their car, though. So surreptitiously kind of snuck in and were able to attach a tracking device to their car. So dude's like, hey, Chief Frizzo, I happen to know where they're going, and looks like they're heading back to Indiana. So Chief Frizzo's like, hey, Indiana police, Hobart, Indiana, we have some people who are pretty suspect who just skipped town after we checked their house out for these murders. Just thought you should know, keep an eye out, and also we may need you to help us and additionally to do an arrest, right? So the lab results do come in. So the CSI is able to determine the lab results, though, yield no actual results, right? So they come in and they're just like, hey, it's blood. Yeah, human, just can't find anything else on it. So all the stuff that they found really wasn't doing them a whole lot of good. Some of the things that they did find as well, though, in the basement, they found chapters of Jason's book. Jason had written a book.
Why is there always a book?
These
dummies, always a book.
Chapter. The book's called Quack Quack's Revenge. Quack Quack is the name. Quack Quack is the name that he uses online. It's his online moniker.
No.
Okay.
That's so embarrassing.
One of the chapters was titled Where Monsters Hide. In the book, apparently, and this is where, like, now that I've been catching up on true crime bullshit, they do explain some of what the chapters actually says, and some of them actually describe a very similar story to this one, where a dude face goes missing and he takes revenge on his lover.
It's always the least creative people.
Yeah,
truly. Ugh.
So, and at this point, they're like tracking these people down. They're trying to figure out what's going on. Nothing really is going on at this point. Again, they're not really able to search for anything. As spring hits, though, everything is thawing out. They called collected evidence from the fire pit, which also includes gene remnants. So they found like buttons, grommets, zippers, things like that.
They also standard stuff you put in a bonfire.
Yeah,
zippers.
They also find a sawzall blade. No big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Just no big deal. They also are able to pull a burn barrel from a pit just less than 600 yards away from their house. So this is a pit where a lot of things have been discarded throughout the years, right? So they dig up this burn barrel, because the other thing that happened is one of the other neighbors had said, hey, yeah, so odd story. Just thought you might like this bit of information. These guys were burning some shit. Smelled real bad. Jason said it was leaves and debris. I've burned leaves and debris before, and that is not what it smelled like. So
yeah,
just you guys might want to know.
In Michigan. Everybody knows what burning leaves and debris smells like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, burn barrel, no results though, because that's been sitting in the bottom of this creek or whatever, this dump site for all of winter, and has like nothing left on it. There's absolutely nothing there. So literally, like, just their forensic evidence is just falling and falling and falling. They're like not getting anywhere, and they're running out of resources. So finally, Chief Frizzo is like, you know what, I just don't have, again, state police didn't really do much. I'm reaching out to the FBI. FBI comes in and they're like, we got you, fam. They finally trace Chris's car GPS. They can confirm that his car was at the Cochran residence on the night that he disappeared. Then from the Cochran residence was put into the park and ride. I mean, so they're able to immediately track his last whereabouts and do all the stuff that these local police just don't have the resources to be able to do. Mm-hmm. Fast forward, February 2016. This is all. They're still looking for all this evidence. One of the things that does happen, though, is that when she contacts the Indiana police, she does have the Indiana police kind of get involved in the case. So they do bring him in for further questioning, but she can't bring him up to Michigan at this point unless she has an arrest warrant. So they actually put somebody on the case. The somebody is Detective Jeremy Ogden, and Jeremy Ogden has multiple interviews with both of them as well. So they're, continuing this back and forth, but now this kind of a little bit gets turned over to him as far as that one-on-one connection. The big deal is they needed some actual DNA evidence from them, and were able to trace them to her mother's house. And at that point that's kind of where they really got involved, because they had to execute this DNA warrant. So they executed this DNA warrant so that they could get DNA from both of them to kind of help again with the forensics to hopefully, either connect or, disconnect DNA that they may find in the home, et cetera, et cetera. And then that being said, they're like, okay, well, they know where we're at, but we're staying at my parents' house. At the parents' house, they also is where they get a phone call in February 2016. 911 call comes in to Hobart, Indiana. Kelly Cochran's husband, Jason, is dead. They get there. He's apparently OD'd on heroin. It was noted immediately by the paramedics, were like, Kelly's behavior was so off. She was almost obtrusive and disruptive, and had to be taken out before they could even really do anything. But he was pretty much dead on arrival. Detective Ogden is like, I need to know more about this. And Kelly's behavior being so problematic, this makes me super suspect on this being just a random heroin overdose, right? So anyway, they find out he did die. He did have heroin in his system, but he did not die specifically because of the heroin overdose. Apparently he wasn't dying fast enough. So somebody had covered his nose and mouth. Obviously that somebody had to be Kelly. So Ogden interviews Kelly and is trying to get some, finally get some information about Chris Regan too. She's like, so we're pretty sure that you killed your husband, but let's talk about Chris Regan for a little bit. Meanwhile, Jason's online gaming buddy, his name's Walt Ammerman. This is the guy who really is like his best bud. It's his best friend. Walt Ammerman has contacted the FBI to inform them that he may have some information that may help them out. Walt agrees to, he's like, hey, my buddy smokes lots of pot. This is his thing. What he doesn't do is heroin.
Yeah.
This is not him. That is not something he does or has ever done that I'm aware of. This is just really off base, right? So he agrees to become an informant for the police, and he's like, the plan was to convince Kelly that Jason had left a letter for him. So he had said, he calls up Kelly, and they have it like the audio file. He's like, hey, Kelly, just FYI, I got this letter that was sent to me from Jason. In it, there's a note that says, send this letter to the Iron River Police Department in Michigan if anything should ever happen to me. And she says, please don't. Yeah. So immediately they're like, oh, some shit. You know more than you're saying. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that kind of response. Even at first, he's like, when they are interviewing Walt on the Snapped episode, he's like, dude's like, felt really bad about it. He's like, there's no way she's involved. Like, but I also kind of want to make sure, if something's foul play, So he felt really bad. He goes, but as soon as she said, please don't, he was like, nah, fuck this bitch. He's like, you fucked.
Yeah.
So frantic, she reaches out to Detective Ogden because she's like, well, shit's about to go down. I'm about to be busted. I want to get my story out there first. I need to let them know what's going on. So she reaches out to Detective Ogden and confesses Jason killed Chris, and she can share what happened. She says that Jason cut him up, dismembered his body, and Detective Ogden wants Kelly to lead him to Chris's body. They drive immediately that evening up to the Upper Peninsula, and she leads investigators to a county road, to a trail where they had thrown out the remains. They said that they had cut up his body, put it in multiple plastic bags, and threw it out here. Ogden does a walkthrough at the house with Kelly. He's like, I want you to walk me through exactly what happened. So he does a walkthrough at the house with Kelly where she claims that Jason had shot Chris in the back of the head. She said she didn't even know that he was home and that he had caught them, and he forced her to clean up. She's like, he said he'd kill me if we didn't do this. Kelly is supposed to do a polygraph for Detective Ogden, but the day before their next meeting, she disappears again.
Up and left.
She up and left. Finally, they secure an arrest warrant that morning, and they are able to track her to Wingo, Kentucky, and Detective Ogden and his partner go down. That's where they catch her and question her, where she finally admits to her involvement with the murder. It was all part of a blood pact that she had made with Jason on their wedding night, that if one of them was to ever have an affair, it's your responsibility to kill that person, to take care of them. You got to off them.
This is what happens when you get married at 18.
Oh my God, that's the craziest. That's not. Is that not going to be in your vows, Keegan?
I mean,
to Anthony.
Listen, that is some immature shit right there. Like that. Those are
Kelly,
two people who have not lived life.
No, that's some wild shit. Kelly admits though that she lures Chris to Jason for him to be shot. So she's telling detectives, she's like, hey, so yeah, he came over to the house. I did lure him to the house. Yes. And he's waiting on the basement steps at the back door. Chris came to the front door and I told him to come around to the back. So she fully admits that she's fully aware of what's going to happen. Like this is she and her involvement in it. She says that, on the trail, which she sent them down, they did finally find, they used a tracking dog and found the traces of the bags that they had just, gotten rid of Chris in, and they also found his skull. So at this point now they do have physical evidence that can link them, and she led them right to it, right? So
well, I guess if there were any more reasons to not cheat or not to engage in a relationship with somebody who's married, I mean, you don't know what kind of weird blood pact they have
true story.
Involving infidelity.
Touche. She also led the officers to the one piece of physical evidence that she personally herself did not clean. She thought Jason had cleaned. It was a pair of forceps that they had used to try to get the bullet out of the body, and it actually does have Chris's blood on it, and it was found in the house. It was the one piece of evidence that they did not collect that did actually come back with Chris's DNA on it. So there's no question at this point now of what's what, right? So Kelly is convicted in Michigan of Chris's murder, but still has to face possible charges for Jason's homicide in Indiana. She ends up taking a plea deal because Michigan doesn't have a death penalty. She already has a life sentence there. So she pleads out to not get a death penalty in Indiana. So she gets a 65 additional years on her sentence. And she had responded, said, oh, and then, so this is all on top of everything else. Colton, her brother, goes to the police. So this is already done and done. We got 2 murders on the books, right? And then her brother Colton's like, hey guys, just little things I thought you should know. I'm pretty sure this is not the first time she's done this. I'm pretty sure that there are at least 9 more bodies.
What is up 9? With people just being like, yeah, I have this information, but since you didn't specifically ask me whether or not my sister is a possible serial killer, I'm just going to keep it to myself. Like
9?
Yeah.
Colton recalls a time when Kelly and was having a conversation and having a relationship with this guy that she had met on Facebook. And when she confessed it to Jason, he recalls him responding with, well, I'll kill him if you want me to. according to Colton, Kelly, like I said, had at least what he thinks were 9 more victims, at least. In a recorded conversation with her mother that they got from the prison, she asked Kelly, "Where did this come from?" And Kelly replied, "You never saw this coming?" She goes, she told her mom, "I've always been like this, Mom." Kelly has 11 butterfly tattoos on her body that she says are from people she lost. But Frizzo and Ogden, Chief Frizzo and Detective Ogden, speculate that they represent her victims. She claims now to have possible victims in Indiana, Michigan, Tennessee, and maybe in Minnesota. On
How
April
do you not know? Like, you're like, maybe I killed someone in Minnesota. Can't quite remember. Like,
it's wild. This is where coming into, I think it's important now at this point to maybe pick up this story on the true crime bullshit, because this is what the question is. Is she a serial killer? What other possible victims may the couple have had, may she have had in her past life that we just don't know about? And it seems to me like a bit of a wild goose chase, but if anybody can track down and put these strings together, it's Josh Hallmark. And so that is my next journey. The other little nugget of hope that I want to end this story on is this. True love prevails. During the process of this investigation, Laura Frizzo and Detective Ogden fall in love.
oh, okay.
That is actually really awesome. That is a nice bow
And
to wrap
that-
it up on.
Ladies, is my crazy and motherfucking love.
Oh, that was a ride.
That was a ride. Dude, I'm legitimately, like, I texted Eric and I'm like, go find Dead North and record it, because I'm like, I'm all about watching that immediately.
100%.
It's good. And it's a 4-part documentary. High recommend watch. It is really, really good. And like I said, my next now serial binge is going to be following up with
Definitely.
true crime bullshit.
Nice.
Mhm.
So you guys, as far as what we're watching right now, I've talked for a bazillion hours. You guys know I watch Hubie Halloween. You ladies go. Let's wrap it.
Oh no, you go ahead. You go ahead.
Bly. I've been watching The Haunting of Bly Manor.
How do you feel? I've heard not as good as the first season.
Well, I was too much of a scaredy cat. The first time I saw Bent Neck Lady, I was like, we're done here. And was not having Hill House. I was like, that is scary. I have not been scared once on Bly Manor. However,
well, that's disappointing.
the story is really interesting. I
Okay.
like it so far. It's engaging. I was getting a little bored with it until the last episode. It was really interesting.
All right,
twist
I'll
in
give
the
it a shot
story.
because I loved Hill House. Hill House was so good to me, and I've heard that Bly Manor isn't as good. So I'm going to give it a shot.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna be real with y'all. I've watched a lot of Real Housewives. I watched so much Real Housewives in the last week. Like, it's basically
Girl.
all I'm watching. The only other thing is my brother did get me to start The Expanse.
Oh.
Which I think started out on Netflix, or no, started out on
Yeah.
Sci-Fi, but is now
Sci-Fi.
on Amazon.
Yeah.
And it's good so far. I'm really enjoying it. And then I also did watch, so Amazon is doing like a Blumhouse kind of like scary movies this month.
Chris is
And-
doing that too.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to start watching these. And so I watched The Lie, which has like Joey King and Peter Sarsgaard, and So-So. As a scary movie person, not one that I would be like, for sure you have to watch it. If you just want something on and that's kind of sort of interesting, then okay. But let me tell you, they make a lot of really, really dumb decisions. So if that's going to bother you, maybe not for you.
Yeah. Oh, and I've also been reading. Cass, I finally, Eric gave me his Fire tablet. So he doesn't really use it or
Perfect.
whatever.
Yeah.
So I finally read Beautiful Bastard.
Ooh.
Spicy.
Wee.
spicy.
Yup.
And I loved it. But I was like,
It's good.
I also downloaded Anatomy of Motive by John Douglas, the Mindhunter guy. Because I love his books, and I thought I had read all of them, but apparently I hadn't read that one. So it was just like yesterday I spent like so much of my day reading. It was the first day I
that's
let
so
myself
nice.
relax. Oh my God.
Oh,
It's like, when is the last time I
amazing.
read a fucking book? It felt amazing. So
oh, good.
yeah.
That's a great feeling.
Well, hey, if you have books that we should read, shows we should watch, especially if you have stories, go to our one-stop shop of a website. It's myworststatepodcast.com. And we love you guys so much.
Cheers.
This is a Glass Box Media Podcast.